Tom Pierce, you are up, my friend. Please welcome Tom Pierce. Our next speaker is passionate about two things: coaching and skiing. Executive coaching, that is. He's the president of Pierce Management Development, and his goal is to make a positive impact on someone every single day. He coaches individuals in their work and personal lives, and is here today to share how having a coach for himself has changed his life.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I don't do voice coaching, Megan. I'm sorry about that. You know, when you see this presentation, I was asked to do this for CalSAE Elevate conference in March, and I had a whole businessy thing all done, and then I went to Great Ideas and found you're supposed to be passionate about this stuff. And I thought, oh, gee, what am I passionate about? And you certainly gave that away. Skiing is one thing, and coaching. So at the bar at Great Ideas, I was thinking, oh no, I've got to rip this thing up and do it differently. Someone asked me, so who's your coach, Tom? We were talking about executive coaching and coaching here and so forth. And I thought about it, and then I realized that question connected my passions, because every coach needs a coach, and every coachman in the old days, you see the horses traveling around town St. Louis, needed a mentor too. You wonder who taught that horse and who taught that coach. As we go on, I want you to think about, you're all coaches in your associations, in your nonprofits, and here's mine, Stu Campbell. Stu is a graduate of Middlebury College, 1964, in English. He went to University of Vermont, a BA in English literature, and he taught high school. So there's one picture of my friend Stu. Well, he's a world-famous author. I'm sure you've read both or one of his books, The Mulch Book and Let It Rot. Stu actually started the compost. What's this humor about? He's a very serious coach. He started the composting movement in America, so he took his English and did it. But he also wrote a book called The Underground House. This is a picture of Stu's house that he built in Stowe. You mow the roof. You can't tell, it looks like a normal house, but you literally mow the roof. So here's a guy that built an underground house, and he's a writer, and he's a teacher, kind of an interesting Renaissance man. In Stowe, he also saw what looked like a moonscape, and he saw a golf course. And if you're ever in the Stowe area, Waterbury area, take a look at Country Club of Vermont. I call it one of his above-ground projects. But this writer and teacher invented a golf course. It's still there with no development. Oh, by the way, he wrote some books about skiing, too. I thought you'd like to know that. And who is this Renaissance guy? How do you do all these things? Well, an editor of Ski Magazine, Ed Petoniak, once wrote a letter to Stu in the summer of 2008. We're talking about the ski life, a life centered on skiing, yes, but even more so a life centered on the mountains, the outdoors, the seasons, a love of the land that's sweeping, a knowledge of the land that's detailed, a passion for buildings made of wood and stone. You've had a lifelong passion for studying and feeling about the land. In Monterey, I mentioned that he's an instructor for Ski Magazine. He was the head of instruction and technical for 3 decades. I gave this speech, and a woman, Kathy Wilmus of the Anaheim Convention Bureau, came up and after said, I've kept his articles for 20 years in my boot bag. Here's a quote from Stu. The art of skiing is ultimately the search for sensation. Use your skis like a draftsman's compass to scribe arcs on the snow. Skis are tools for sculpting space on the tilt. He was at Stowe, then he moved to Heavenly Valley, where he was head of ski racing services, and he worked with people like Jerry Weintraub, the producer of Oceans 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and Jerry's passion was the John Denver Classic. A lot of famous people snuggle up to Stu, more famous than me even, if you can imagine such a thing, to get free ski tips because he's a great PSIA instructor and does all sorts of things very, very well. So, here's Steve Mayer and Phil Mayer, a couple of very famous skiers with Stu. But who's the babe? Who's the one on the right? Well, you need to know who the babe is, and I'll wait for the next slide to cleverly tell you that her name used to be Carol West. Her current name is Carol West Campbell. That may be a clue of what happened in that particular skiing relationship. When they ski together, it's like dolphins or like a flock of birds. It's unbelievable. They turn at the same time, and it's really rather magical and rather fantastic. And yes, that is Stu's babe, and they married and lived happily. Stu's a legendary ski instructor at Stowe. Actually, he's just a legend now because Stu fought a wonderful race against cancer for 22 years. He lost that race in December of 2008. And here's a picture of him skiing. So his wife, Carol's still an instructor at Stowe. So a bunch of us got together and said, we have to, he's known worldwide, and he's my coach. So we have to do something to commemorate him. So this is the graphic that you can see on the screen of a pin. And for, I don't know, $100 or something, and one of my clients, Aisha, International Ski History Association, you got that pin, and people that loved and know Stu around the world are now wearing that pin on their ski parkas and maybe even on their skin. We loved him that much, kind of thing. Stu always had a plan B. So who's my coach now? Well, in the background you see Carol West Campbell, and she's the one now teaching my wife and I how to ski, continuing the wonderful relationship that we had with Stu Campbell. Okay, that's it. You've met my coach, so who's your coach? Have you thanked her lately? Have you thanked him lately? Believe me, it's time.